Thank you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs. Today we will be painting up a Stimmer for our Goliath gang in Necromunda. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this guy, so you're looking at 2 days for both the models. And this is his melee combat buddy. I paint these guys at the same time. Just for fun, switch out the weapon loadouts. Alright, so to paint this guy, I primed him standard Mechanicus gray. I used Army Painter, mostly used matte black, Barbarian flesh, gunmetal, dry rust, greenskin, jungle green, pure red, kobold skin, wolf gray, Mars red, poisonous cloud, and matte white. I used P3's coal black. From the Citadel line I used Mephiston Red, Bugmans Glow, then I used 2 washes, Seraphim Sepia, and Nuln Oil. Alright, let's go ahead and get started on this guy. Well, I've primed my Goliath Stimmer standard Mechanicus gray. I'm going to start off by using some matte black. Get these ammo tanks. Get his mohawk here. Get some of this piping. I'm going to do the ejection port for his spent rounds. Do that black. Let's see, why am I doing the black piping first? Just because I know whenever I paint pipes, I get so bored with it, my brush gets out of control and I would hit the detail underneath, base layer detail. A lot of these Necromunda models you can't build in I don't feel like you can build in sub-assemblies in paint, but they're very intricate models. So it's like, what do I want to paint? And I feel I can paint the black pipes, the piping quickly, the mohawk, the stuff I'd normally consider detail work, get that out of the way. And do the little gloves and straps here, black, little gauntlet. Now we're going to use some Citadel Mephiston Red. If you're wondering why I don't use Army Painter's Dragon Red, which is pretty much the same color, it's because I just love Mephiston Red. It just covers right, works right. It works for me. Alright, so we are going to do the plates. So normally when you do the mainline Goliaths that they show the art, they have a red, and that they make their plates out. So I use Mephiston Red. Alright, now I did these gloves black, but I'm going to put a little red over the metal plating part. Now, you don't have to follow any box art or standard look for the weapons since they are Goliaths. They're just happy to have what they have. At this point, we don't have to be too careful, just not to hit the parts of the black we want to keep black. But we can always go back with black. Black covers everything. I think you get the idea. We'll be back as I go off and fill some of this in. Alright, we slopped in that red. Now let's turn to some P3 coal black. And I just love the hint, the blue-black that it provides. So some of you might notice I'm not staying in the lines. That's because I'm going to rely, when I go over with the gunmetal, the gunmetal will tidy it up. It'll separate everything out. But, so we're just going to do the boots and the pants. And, make something dark that's separate, so it doesn't like, oh, it's the same tone of black everywhere. No, we'll give it a little variety. Now I am going to use some Citadel Bugmans Glow, also one of my favorite browns. And what we're going to do is all the skin and some of the straps. So you can see how between like the brown and the red, there's that little line where the gunmetal will go, and that'll tidy it up. So I'm going to do his wrestling belt in brown, And I am going to do the straps for shin guards. And this gives it a little variety because the straps for his forearm guards, as we saw, were black. And these ones brown. Just a way to introduce different colors. Always fascinated by groups that are supposed to have uniforms. They don't actually match that much. So that strap, strap, the skin here. Try to slip behind this piping and get the belt. Move carefully around some of these parts. Let's not forget his angry, angry face. Alright, so I took my model off its handle. The idea is I'm going to paint to the base now because I was moving so quickly, a lot of these paints are drying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step away for a while, but I have a custom mix that I have for my Necromunda bases. So this is a 1-part black, 3-part gunmetal. And let me find my sloppy brush. There it is. And this is just what I'm going to paint the base. So something you should do is think about your timing, because even if you paint a bunch of models at the same time, what you find you don't always have, they don't always dry quick enough for you to do some of the techniques. So nothing's touching the base right now. And I'm going to need it to dry, because I need the skin to dry more before I put the next layer over. And you know, having a custom bottle mix for something you're doing consistently. So my bases tie all my different models together. So what I want to do is, I know I'm going to need a lot of it, so I mix up my own custom bottle. Nothing wrong with that. So once I'm done with this, I'm going to take off, just let it dry, and then we'll be back. Alright, everything seems to dried out enough. Just took a walk for 7 minutes. So, Army Painter Barbarian Flesh. You guessed it, we're going to put it over the fleshy parts. So we use the brown, it's kind of like a base, to kind of treat this, to get it up to a level where the Barbarian Flesh would actually stick with just one coat. And we're only going to put one coat. But you can imagine I'm not going to touch the strap. So it's a good way to paint both the strap and the skin. And then just go back and put the flesh color over, whichever one you want. Now we're going to move to Army Painter Gunmetal. And so that is going to be a lot of the emblems. We're going to do gunmetal. Some of the little middle parts that stick off the plates, it's part of their stem rig. And it's going to be a lot of plate edges here. Naturally, the guns will be painted gunmetal. And this is where I'm going to do some edges of the plates. So you can see sometimes painting like the red and the Barbarian Flesh a little messy because we had these little thin strips of plastic design, and we're just going to run the edge of the tip of the brush along those, and that will cut a nice clean line between the different colors. It just tidies it up instantly. Naturally, this giant plate right here. You have a lot of the like braces and buckles. You can go around, see what stuff you think should be metal. So much metal, so many buckles. Alright, did all the little gunmetal etching on there. So he's looking kind of shiny now. So I'm going to start dulling them down. I'm going to start with the base. So I took some dry rust, and in my palette, my little paint tray, just took some dry rust and I turned it, you can see, into a soupy glaze. So this goes over our custom mix, and so this will show that this metal's been sitting here for a while, and then this will take a while to dry. So then I'll probably go off and get something to eat, turn the fan on above me so it can blow down and slowly dry it. That's why we'll set it on here so it doesn't stick to the tray. So everything is dry now, but you know, he needs a little more character. So we're going to use some Seraphim Sepia, my favorite wash for all things Necromunda. We're going to put them on the same paint tray there, dish, whatever. So Seraphim Sepia. I'm going to get an old brush I have, and we are going to liberally apply it. Except to that shoulder pad. I keep it off that shoulder pad. Those I treat differently. And for some of it, you'll want to turn the guys upside down, so that way no areas will get like this little dry pocket of where the wash didn't flow. And then when we get close to being done, we'll do all the base there. A big model, big boy. Try to wash this much at once. And this is why, before they changed the Seraphim Sepia formula, I bought a lot of bottles. Gonna need something a little bit smaller to get into all these crevices. Just don't want to forget any pieces here. This will dull down this gunmetal even more. And with the dry rust, you can imagine, you can see why it's helpful to do a bunch of these at once. Just because sheer amount of drying time in between sessions. Okay. Nice liberal coating. Okay. There we go. Now we'll go let that dry for a while. Now I'm going to take some Nuln Oil and I'm just going to use my regular painting brush. And this pad, it got some of the Seraphim Sepia on it. It's dry now, but we'll just go ahead and say that adds character. I'll put some Nuln Oil over top of that. And see, that gives this metal a different look than the rest of the metal. And this will be our accent statement piece. Okay, we'll let that dry. Now that everything's dry, we're going to take some Army Painter green skin. And now we're actually going to paint stuff that makes him a Stimmer. So any vials or cables that will be pumping his medicine. A little bit more here. Now I'm going to take some Army Painter Jungle Green. And just on the top parts there. Not over where we put the green skin. The green skin does serve as a base. So, a good rule of thumb is we'll turn 50% of what we painted green skin over with the jungle green. Get some of this piping, just do the top edge of the piping. Now while we wait for the green to dry, I'm going to go back to Barbarian flesh here. Just get a little bit in my brush and wipe most of it out, and we're going to do just a touch on the top of these muscles. Not into the grooves of the muscles, just on the top. So a light little coat. The more layers you put on, the lighter his skin. So, flavor to taste. Next up will be Army Painter Kobold skin. I'm going to take what used to be a fine pointy brush and is broken down because I am rough on brushes, but it makes for a very precise dry brush. So I'm going to dip the paint, wipe most of it off, and just go like that, feather it in. And while I'm at it, I'll use this to edge highlight, just run over the edges of this little straps. Got these little brown straps on the back. Just a quick little hit. That helps smooth out the texture of the skin. I'm going to use some Army Painter Wolf Gray. And that is just for doing little edge highlights. Not too much on there. Some of the black pieces. And this is how I destroy my brushes, using the bristles like this. But move fast and break things. Now, not just on the black, but remember we had coal black, and that's what we did the pants in. But we'll go ahead and use the wolf gray to highlight over those. And get a sense that light's coming down, so we'll lighten up here, create a sense of movement. So we'll just keep going around. Oh, don't forget mohawk here. Then I'll go around and do all the black pieces. And the coal black, that's right. Next we're going to use pure red. And we're just going to touch some of the plates here. See, this is runnier than the Mephiston Red, and I can just lightly spread that over the plates. And you can control the variability in the red pigment by how many layers you put on. So I saved this for last because when I was brushing over the skin in the black with the gray, I'd save the red to cover up in case I got any of the other colors on here, because we're getting close to the end. So like everything else, flavor to taste by how many layers you put on. Now we're going to use some Army Painter Mars Red. We're not going to use much of this. This is just going to hit some around the tops of the plates there. Wherever I have a lot of the red, just accent it a little bit more. And some of the orange. The top of the plates show more light reflecting off of it. Alright, and you put on as much of that as you want. The more on it, remember, you can't put on too much. It'll like, ah, he's wearing orange armor. And now I spent all this time trying to make it look red. Now we're going to use some Army Painter Poisonous Cloud. That's green with a lot of yellow in it, and just get a little bit. That'll make it look like a little fluid's going in there. Just little spots, kind of like what we did with the Mars orange. Just little lines. There we go. Now I want to go back. And so he's got a trigger button there that he assumed that's a button on top. A little shooting button for his gun. So I'm going to go back to the Mephiston Red. And since I only need a little bit, get that button. Make sure I just get the outlines. On a nice, bright, smooth line. Get that trigger button there. Good. We'll come back to that later. Now we're getting close to the end, so we're going to go back to Army Painter Gunmetal. And you probably guessed it. I'm just going to hit some of the edges of these metal plates. And if we swirled up any of the lines here with some of the other colors we were highlighting, we can go back, touch those up. I like finishing off a lot of the highlighting with the gunmetal, because if you cut it across a plate or something, you say, well, you scratch that plate. Alright, so we'll just go around, touch with these bits. But you know, it makes this shoulder pad icon stand out, because it'll look shinier than the rest of them. I wanted that. There we go. To finish up, we're going to take some Army Painter Matte White and just the tip of the brush, and we're going to go boop, dot there, dot there. Let me put one up here. Dot there. Give it a little reflectivity. And for what I'm painting is trigger buttons to show that they're highlighted. Dot there. Dot there. Alright, and that's it. So that is our Stimmer. I know I spent a little bit more time on the Necromunda ones, put a little bit more detail than the other models, but that's because I like them so much. Came out very well. Well, thank you for joining us at Miniature Wargaming Labs, and we'll see you next time.